and to have a greater relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to strengthen the connection, the relationship between ourselves and our Lord. In our last session, which was session number 4, we focused on the issue of nasakh, abrogation. We also looked at how that abrogation takes effect, how it affects us when we read the revelation, certain judgments that are abrogated and superseded by other judgments that come more recently or come later. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala indeed helped us to benefit and understand the revelation with the issue of nasakh. Today, we are going to be looking at a number of issues, actually 4 issues. Because in our last session, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought us great benefit in learning the passages on nasakh, abrogation, that we might understand what we may or may not use as evidence. Although it was most assuredly difficult and challenging to our minds in looking, understanding, and interpreting revelations as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it, we were nonetheless pleased and happy with the information that was presented by the scholars quoted. Our last part in this particular series before going into the pitfalls in hermeneutics is going to focus on 4 different passages. Those passages are going to be the amr, the order, the nahi, prohibition, the am, general, and the khas, the specific or the restrictive. First, we will actually look at the passage that deals with the amr. The word amr derives from the root amara, which is alif, mim, ra, which denotes the meaning of to command, to denote, to bid, or to order with something. If someone should read a passage that is amr in form, this has to do with the stating of an explicit command that someone is to do. This command is unequivocal, and there is no doubt in the command being stated. Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah says about this type of passage, quote, "The amr is the statement that someone uses to command or urge those besides him." Closed quote. This is taken from Al-Faqih wal-Mutafaqih, volume 1, pages 67 to 68. According to Shaykh al-Islam Muwafiq al-Din rahimahullah, amr in the Sharia carries the meaning of, quote, "the action being urged or called upon with a statement by way of strong emphasis." Closed quote. This is taken from Rawdat al-Nadir wa Junnat al-Munadir, volume 1, pages 542 to 543. Imam Abdul Qadir ibn Badran al-Hanbali rahimahullah also defined amr as, quote, "the use of statements such as do this, or know this, or strike this, leave, or roll, which denotes the imperative." Close quote. This is taken from Al-Madkhal, pages 223 to 224. Thus, we have an understanding of the amr that we are being presented with that is clear, concise, and lucid. What we'd like then is now some examples of the amr. When we look at passages of amr, we realize that the scholars of Islam down the ages have cataloged a large number of them. There are some 11 or more subtypes of amr. However, due to the fact that we are trying to keep these classes as crisp and short and brief as possible, we will mention 5 of them so that each believer may strengthen his or her faith with the basic and most commonly encountered types. And those that desire to know more can, of course, research on their own with the help of scholars, or perhaps can find books that teach on this subject at more length. The first type of amr is the wujub. The wujub. This is an amr passage where the command is of a compulsory nature, where obedience of some sort is sought from the one being commanded. Examples of this would be وَأَقِمَ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ. So establish the prayer from midday until the darkness of the night. Surah Al-Isra, the 17th surah, ayah 78. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. So establish the prayer. Surah Al-Baqarah, the 2nd surah, ayah 43. So we can see from here that we are being told to command something. And the first ayah we were told, وَأَقِمَ الصَّلَاةَ لِدُلُوكِ الشَّمْسِ إِلَى غَسَقِ اللَّيْلِ. So establish the prayer from midday until the darkness of the night. And in the passage that came directly after that we used was وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. So establish the prayer. So these passages are pointing towards something that is of a compulsory nature. And those that are believers know that we, of course, are obliged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pray 5 times a day. Thus we know these passages are wujub in form. The next is the nadab. Nadab. Now there are also other words used for this particular type of amr. Sometimes the word nadab is used. Sometimes mandub is used. Istihbaban, mustahab. These are all phrases and terms that are used that are referring to the same thing. So inshallah, no one should become confused about these points. They are rather just different words referring to the same thing. Therefore, mustahab, nadab, mandub, istihbaban, these are words that are merely referring to the same principle, subtype of amr. So what does nadab mean? Nadab is a command that bears upon being praiseworthy and highly recommended. This is something where there is tremendous benefit being attached to the command, although the command is not compulsory. Let us take an example of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ يَبْتَغُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ. And the slaves you own that seek manumission, give it to them. Surah An-Nur, the 24th surah, ayah 33. Therefore, the command that has been given, فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ, is a command of istihbab, or mustahab, or nadab, or mandub. It is something that is highly praised and recommended. As an interesting point, we should look and see that it is only in Islam that we specifically are seeing a command, some sort of order, some sort of praiseworthy point being put forth about freeing slaves. This is not the only passage that deals with the topic. We have others. In fact, there are some 11 passages in the Qur'an that speak of the praiseworthy nature of freedom for slaves and giving slaves freedom. But when we look at Judaism or Christianity or Hinduism, which imposes a color-based sort of slavery, we find no such recommendation. Rather, what we find is condemnation to eternal serfdom in some sort of caste, or slavery due to one's color or lack thereof. The next type of amr passage is the ihana. The ihana. Ihana is where the command bears on humiliation due to disobedience and disloyalty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, قَالَ ادْخُلُوا فِي أُمَمٍ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ فِي النَّارِ. So enter the fire with the other nations from amongst the jinn and the humans that passed away before you. Surah Al-A'raf, the 7th surah, ayah 38. Notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He is telling them to enter the fire with the other nations that passed away before them, this is not a blessed day. It is not a happy or festive time. This is a time of great humiliation due to their disobedience and their disloyalty. Listen to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says of those who have rejected salvation. He says, وَذُوقُوا عَذَابَ الْحَرِيقِ. So taste the blazing punishment. Surah Al-Anfal, the 8th surah, ayah 50. So here in this ayah, they are being commanded to taste the blazing punishment. Another form of amr is ibaha. Ibaha. Ibaha is a command that is permissible to undertake, where the one called to something has a choice of whether or not they will carry out such an action as commanded. They actually have a choice in the matter. They do not have to undertake what is being asked, but they may do so if they choose to. Let us look at some examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink, but do not waste. Surah Al-A'raf, the 7th surah, ayah 31. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, eat and drink, but do not waste. Now, how do we know that the ayah is ibaha? We know that it's ibaha because of the fact that this actual ayah that was revealed had to do with the revelation regarding the children of Adam when they went on Hajj. In the times of Jahiliyyah, when the Meccans used to go on Hajj, the pilgrimage, they used to remove their clothes because they felt that the clothes that they had done sinful things in were too impure to make tawaf around the Kaaba in. In addition to that, there were also some who were not able to afford the very exorbitant prices that the Quraysh charged to make tawaf around the Kaaba in the actual pilgrimage clothes. Therefore, what they decided to do was to go naked without the clothes. In this way, avoiding the high prices of pilgrimage clothes that the Quraysh tribe were charging as custodians of the Kaaba. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to them that they should take the best of their clothes. They should wear the clothes when they go to every place of prayer, and then and eat and drink and do not waste. Because at that time, people used to have a stigma about eating and drinking in the actual presence of the Kaaba. They had a very large stigma about that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, eat and drink if you will, but do not waste. And this was the command that was given. It is unfortunate that today the modern Saudi government doesn't heed that command, and some 2 million carcasses of dead meat are wasted yearly at the actual Hajj festival. Meat that is not consumed by all of those that are present and is poorly managed by the Saudi government. Indeed, it is unfortunate that this ayah is not paid its proper due. Another ayah of ibaha is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا حَلَلْتُمْ فَاصْطَادُوا. And when you finish the ihram, then hunt. This is from Surah Al-Ma'idah, the 5th surah, ayah 2.